Colorado is a flawed football team, as I just mentioned. They are unraveling and really just going through some growing pains. They blew a 29-0 lead at home. Another game with double-digit penalties from Deion Sanders' crew, and just the lack of discipline and coaching overall that this team is going through right now. You got the quarterback, literally Shedeur Sanders, posting merchandise on his Instagram story during the game. Like, come on, dude. That is just a not sense of entitlement, but it's showing some arrogance. It's showing some cockiness. And we've seen this out of a Colorado team that's had to come back to life over the last few weeks. But let's take a look at what Stanford and Colorado each did individually in this football game. So you got to give it to Stanford, right? A 97-yard drive got it going with Ayamaner. Alec Ayamaner was absolutely eating up Travis Hunter in this game. He had another big play from him for the third Stanford touchdown of the game. And you see Colorado's defense is lapsing again. A lot of wide open throws, some busted coverages that are still happening at the midpoint of their season. And you look at all three touchdowns came in the third quarter for Stanford. And knowing that Colorado had that lead 29-0, and they come out and lose this football game. You got to respect Stanford for what they were doing in this game, driving 70 yards to tie it and then send it to overtime. And Colorado really did all they could to pin them at the 1 yard line with that punt. But the defense, unfortunately, does still let it up enough to allow that overtime field goal. Elic Iomanner, man, absolutely owned Travis Hunter in Travis's first game back, at least on the defensive side of the football. The overtime touchdown grab was absolutely insane and ultimately just outman Travis Hunter on that play. But you see, Stanford wasn't afraid of throwing at Travis Hunter at one of Colorado's, if not Colorado's best player. We know him as the two-way Heisman guy right now. And they saw the weakness in Travis Hunter. They targeted him all game. And I'm not saying Travis Hunter is a weak player, but in this game, there was a weakness that Stanford literally saw. They exposed it and they went after it. Elic Iomanner, 15 snags for 294 yards, 194 yards after the catch, and 3 touchdowns in this game. Stanford scored on the final 8 drives of this football game, while Colorado scored on one of just the final 6 drives of their own to end the night. And when you look at Shedeur, again, in a game that he's got to adjust, he's got to be a better quarterback when you look at how he throws the interception in overtime. Shedeur Sanders did take some bad sacks in this football game, running behind the line. And then finally in the second half, we see in the fourth quarter, Shedeur hooks up with Weaver and then the strike to Travis Hunter in this game. And Colorado allowed a 36-7 run in the second half to go to overtime and an overall 46-14 run. What's going up 29-0 to lose this football game? It was just horrible decisions, horrible playmaking at some points in this game by Shedeur Sanders, specifically pointing at the double overtime interception. And it just makes you think of the times this season that Deion has said, as long as we know the ball is in Shedeur's hands, we'll be okay. Don't know if that was necessarily the case with the game on the line in this point, Deion. I will say Travis Hunter did play too many snaps in this game for a game of being, the first time back in a couple weeks, specifically on the defensive side of the ball. I respect his offensive output, 15 snags, 140 yards, 2 touchdowns, and even had a big factor in this game outside of covering, for coverage on the defensive side of the ball. Had an end zone saving tackle earlier in this game as well. But again, Elic Iomanner, 15 catches, 294 yards, 3 touchdowns, 194 yards after the catch. Travis Hunter was just out of sorts. And knowing that this type of game took place at Folsom Field in Colorado at home for the Buffs, this one's going to sting, no doubt about it. Here is where it shows you that Colorado is susceptible to the big play. Colorado gave up 8 pass plays of 15 yards or longer for a total of 266 yards. That means more than half of Stanford's total offensive yardage, 266 that I just mentioned, out of the 523 that they had for the night, literally came on 8 plays. Colorado gave up an average of 33 and a quarter yards per play on just 8 plays that went 15 plus yards for Stanford in this game. Otherwise, Colorado did a decent job. 80 plays in total, 257 yards, so averaging 3.2 yards per play. But knowing that Stanford had those big plays to jump back into the game, it perfectly explains why Colorado ultimately fell apart in this one. And those big plays were killers, no doubt. Colorado giving up a 97-yard touchdown pass and then a 60-yard scoring touchdown, a 60-yard scoring pass in less than 2 minutes in this football game. And Deion even said, once we had the 97-yard touchdown and all that bull crap happened, we got complacency, all the mistakes started happening. It started with Elic Iomanner. And notice how the game ended with Elic Iomanner as well. But we just got to call it what it is. Like, Colorado's getting too comfortable. Deion's coaching at this point. He is 1-3 in Pac-12 games. They've dropped 3 of their last 4. Shedeur Sanders still doesn't have protection on the O-line, getting sacked 5 times a game. And Colorado doesn't have a run game. And I said it when Deion was coming into this. He had the win against TCU. They get blown out by Oregon. Like, there is levels to this. You are talking about a one-win college program. Let's be realistic. Has Denver, Colorado really ever been relevant outside of this year if it wasn't about marijuana? And I'm just calling it what it is. Like, Colorado did not have that type of attention until Deion came here. The attention's here. Now you got to perform in the spotlight. Prior to this game, Colorado was 6 for 8 on fourth down conversions. The Buffaloes had 2 attempts near midfield in this game. They missed on both of them. Stanford took possession on the 45-yard line after one and the Colorado 33 after the second, and they both led to Stanford touchdowns. So just kind of like Dan Lanning in the Oregon game that we're going to talk about in a second, got a good bit of college football here on the show. It shows you that sometimes that aggressiveness, whether you have the track record or not, you have to hope that it pays off because it can come back and bite you in the ass. There's levels to this. Colorado has to understand that. The next phase is to get better at Pac 12 play and build your trenches. I hear everyone talking about wait until Deion gets his recruits, wait until Deion gets his players. That's great. I'm cool with that. But until that happens, until Colorado has significant trench play and can protect their quarterback, they're going to lose games like this. They're going to blow leads. They're going to go 1-3 in Pac 12 games, and they still got a schedule to play. I was a guy that said this was a 9-11 win football team earlier in the year. I'll eat crow. I'll take the blame. I was high off the TCU loss. No one's talked about TCU since the opener, and Colorado is a completely different team with the limelight kind of off of them. Like, where has Dylan Edwards been? That's kind of my question. Like, we saw that Dylan Edwards in the first game of the year. Where is that type of Dylan Edwards been? And I get it. People get tape on you and all these things that happen as it, goes through a college football season. But Colorado fans, y'all get down in the comments. Let me know what y'all think about this football game. Darby said Deion released his inner Falcon. Oh, man, don't do him like that. Don't do him like that, bro, because he's a former Falcon. And Deion, I know you watched the show. He didn't mean to say that.